There are many examples and highlights of the last year, and I can recommend to read our new annual report 2024, which focuses on these approaches in the different regions. For me personally, a few highlights are, of course, for example, in Peru, this idea of working with local and indigenous people and asking, what is the economy around these forest uses? What can we try? What can we innovate? And whose benefit it is? That's clearly one. Another topic is, of course, in East Africa, where we work on restoring degraded lands to break these vicious cycles between climate-related droughts, then the lack of moisture and water in the soil, and the degradation of the vegetation, the grazing lands, which together form the basis for a pastoralist livelihood of the Maasai people. There is very important innovations happening, but I'm also fascinated, for example, by the work that we do in Southeast Asia, a country which is under enormous pressure from distant, very powerful actors like the Chinese market. And if China calls for chicken feed, then many countries around them are forced to produce chicken feed in monocultures over large landscapes, to the detriment perhaps of these multifunctional and varied landscapes where forests and nature still play a role. And can this small landscape really be active and define their own path of development versus these powerful things? So there are a lot of very interesting stories that we can tell. Well, the evaluation was about looking back, looking at the first 4 years of operations, and it was a question by our board and also our donors, is it worth the money, finally? And it was a very important milestone for us of getting a signal, yes, continue, or we have serious concern. And we should also say it was a huge effort. On the one hand, we had to accommodate the different interests of the Canton of Bern, the Wyss Foundation, the university, having shared but also differentiated ideas, what is really important we should look at. And we also visited all projects in all the regional hubs, and all the units were evaluated. So it was really a big exercise and a lot of effort. But I'm convinced that there was a huge payback. The number of recommendations and learning that we could all take out of that. I would say the first was a clear message to consolidate. Consolidate in terms of the institution that we built, the processes, to simplify, to level off how we plan and manage and organize things, so we can go into smooth operations that really serve also the purpose of the Wyss Academy. And second, also consolidating our portfolio and being clear what are the different contributions that we should prioritize, which are very close to the impact that we look for. The second thing, and this will be a new topic that comes, is to think about multiplying and scaling our impact. That's an important topic towards the future. We hope to demonstrate concrete solutions, but they should not be anecdotal. We have to show what is more generalized about that. That's important for donors, for policy, but also for science. So that's what we want to achieve. And thirdly, I think an important recommendation was also we have to still improve how we monitor, evaluate, and learn from our progress, that we can really come up with the proof of what we do, and that this can flow back to our partners for a joint learning about these approaches. One very relevant outcome, which was perhaps not new, but it was important to confirm, is that forests provide a lot of services to people which are not only economic, they are social and environmental. They protect from flooding, they support biodiversity, they contribute to climate mitigation, but they have cultural values, they have spiritual values to people. That's where people venerate their ancestors and many, many more things. So that has been confirmed, but interestingly, across the 4 continents in a different way, but showing the same pattern on the diversity. And the second important thing, which is also confirmed, that actually only the economic valuation dominates the use of the forest. And that's one of the huge problems that still define also the rates of deforestation among many countries in the global south mainly. And I think it was very important
to build on that and create some of the key messages also in view of informing the global conference of party around biodiversity. And I think one important message was to say we need to defend those environmental and social values against the current economic system that doesn't take them into recognition. But secondly, and very importantly, we have to also create alliances around these services. And we cannot treat biodiversity separately from climate change. It's the same. If we look at forests, we do two things at the same time, or even three things. We also look for indigenous people's well-being and culture values. So forests can actually provide a lot of service in one packages, and we should not fragment it down. Because also our research could show that many governance schemes that integrate forests and people, for example, in Peru, the reserves for indigenous peoples or concessions for non-timber forest products, they perform really well in protecting the forest while at the same time also supporting people. So these were the messages we could bring and defend. It is, of course, a big step to go from a very local landscape where we work to the global conference of parties. And I think we should be humble and modest. But for us, it's very important to learn and see how are global policymakers defining the rules and the regulations and the normative setting around these big issues in which we work. But the second, I think, and that's also part of our mission, to bring our learnings back to global levels. And that's what we did for the first time, as I said, with these messages. We could bring together different stakeholders. We had indigenous leaders, we had scientists, we had government officials in Cali, in Colombia, discussing with each other. And this also called for people building bridges between different actors, between science, policy, and practice. And it also led to alliances where we can rely on into the future to bring our message across. This brings us back to the annual report 2024, and I try to explain that we are looking back at 4 very intensive years. We are at a milestone moment where we close our first phase of work, and our annual report shows the highlights. It shows also the fruits that we can already harvest, and I think we are all very proud of that. And we're all very thankful to all the people and partners who have contributed to this big endeavor. And I would invite you and all the audience to really take time and look at it critically and give us feedback. And that brings us into the future, and we count on the continued support of our team, the enthusiasm of all our staff, but also the strong support by the partners, especially in the regions, but also of our research and policy teams to make this harvest grow towards the future. And we really look forward to it. And I'm very happy to start this next phase in the beginning of 26.